Hi, my name is Lavelle Romaine, and this is Nurses for Hope, the tweet chat here at City of Hope. City of Hope is an NCI designated cancer center, and we're located in the Southern California area at the 210 and the 605 freeway, right outside of Pasadena. Each month we're going to be having a tweet chat, and you're welcome to join us. If you're watching us on Google+, we'd like you to submit your questions to us through a Q&A app that you'll see on Google+. If you're viewing through the broadcast that's on YouTube, then you can, there's things that you can do on that too. You can, it'll point you out to the Hangout on air page with the Q&A app. And so you can ask your questions through YouTube also. If you're joining us on Twitter, make sure that you add #Nurses for Hope to your tweets and to all of your questions. I'll go ahead and I'll introduce our panelists for today. And today we're talking about the benefits of having a BSN and different educational opportunities that are available for nurses. Okay, first we have Theresa McCormick. She's one of our nurse recruiters, and we have Leilani Tatzel, another one of our nurse recruiters. And then we have Jose Llanes, and he's here with us. He's one of our employees here at City of Hope, and he'll give the student perspective on the associate degree and the bachelor's degree programs. And then we have Renee here, and her last name is Meshikan, and she's one of our BMT nurses on the 6th floor. And we have Bernie Pallone right here, and she's one of our clinical research nurse managers. And we have Amber Freeman here, and they are our 4 panelists that we have. So thank you again for joining us, and we'll go ahead and get started. Again, feel free to ask questions on Google+ and YouTube, and also submit your questions on Twitter. The first question will head out with Theresa answering the first part of the question, is the different educational paths that nurses can go in your nursing career. And just we're going to talk about different nursing degrees, differences between an associate degree and a bachelor's degree program, the pros and cons, and how they can complement each other. So Theresa, we'll kind of start out with you, some of your thoughts. Sure.
So the ADN is actually gives you more of the hands-on clinical experience. It's a good degree to start off with, but it does limit you. So you will not have as many doors open up with ADN versus the BSN. Excuse me. BSN just takes you to another level, more of the baccalaureate prepared, which gives you more of the management skills, gives you the evidence-based practice. It helps you think more independently, as well as the critical thinking, which you need in leadership, and will help you go into management. I think both of them are good, but again, the BSN is just taking you to that next step.
Leilani, did you have anything to add to what Theresa's?
I would say that for a BSN, you'll be able to go further in your studies and go for a master's or even a doctorate. And a lot of doors will open up for you once you get a BSN.
Great. And then I'll have our 4 panelists give a little bit of your background before you answer the first question about, again, stating your name, where you work, and what your educational path is. And so we'll start with you, Jose.
Hi everyone, my name is Jose Llanes, and I'm a member of Nursing Research and Education at City of Hope. As Lavelle stated, I am a student currently looking into nursing programs. And as far as my education, working with nursing researchers has truly inspired me to go to graduate level. So without a question, the baccalaureate degree is #1 on my list. And I'm glad to be here on the panel.
Excellent. How about you, Renee?
Hi, my name is Renee Meshikan. I'm a nurse on the bone marrow transplant unit. I came to City of Hope 29 years ago. I'm actually just hit my anniversary. Came as a new grad and have stayed because worked at other hospitals at that time, but there's just a very family-oriented feel at City of Hope. And the collaboration, working together in a small, relatively small, our units are smaller compared to larger hospitals. The closeness was just very different, and I liked the patient population. That's why I stayed, because patients weren't in and out. There's a lot of teaching and support that you can give patients, their family, and the staff, and that's why I stayed. I went back for my BSN 25 years into working. Very different schooling. It was technology-wise a little bit more challenging, but I definitely loved the experience. And I personally went back because I knew that the trend was going to be for BSN, and that's really a push from the American Nursing Association, since we are the largest healthcare providers nursing, but we're the only field that doesn't require a bachelor's degree. And so for really the independence of nursing and for us to progress as a profession independent from medicine, it's very important to have a higher degree, and that's why I went back. And my pathway will be to go back for master's probably next year or very soon, so I can go into the educational part.
Great.
Being able to apply my clinical that I've learned and help other nurses and patients benefit.
Thank you. Very good. How about you, Bernie? What's your?
Yeah, my name's Bernie Pallone, and I am a clinical research nurse manager in the research operations part of the City of Hope. And we are a group of nurses that take care of patients that participate on clinical trials. So I, like Renee, went back to school after being a nurse and having my ADN 29 years, and went back and got my BSN. And it has actually provided me the opportunity to move up to management. So that's been a great move for me.
Huge benefit.
So, yeah,
That's
absolutely.
Great. That's great. How about you, Amber?
My name is Amber Freeman. I've been here at City of Hope for about 8 years. I started as a PCA while I was in nursing school, and then I work on the surgical oncology unit. I've been there ever since. Ever since I graduated. I just got my BSN about 2 years ago, and I noticed, like Theresa was saying, the ADN, it is a lot more skills focused. And once I did go back and get the BSN, I noticed there was a lot more theory, a lot more leadership focus within the curriculum. And I think I've really benefited from that after going back and getting my BSN.
Great. Thank you, Amber. The next component we wanted to discuss is how do you choose a BSN program? What are the components that you're looking for in a BSN program? And also, what are recruiters looking for in candidates? I'm the recruiter that does the new grad program, and the things that I look for us here at City of Hope, because we are based in oncology, is that the students have done a preceptorship in oncology is important because of our patient population that is included in your clinical trial, the clinicals that you're doing. And then we look at where your rotations were done and how many hours you put in and how many clinical hours were available to you through your program. So really looking and asking those questions prior to getting started in a program is very important based on where you want to work and what type of patient population you're looking at taking care of. Does anyone else have any comments on about why you guys chose the program you chose, and why did you choose to go back and get the BSN? You kind of hit on that a little bit, but what were the components of the classroom setting or the online setting that you chose? So Amber, if you could kind of share with us.
Mine was kind of interesting because I have a degree in something else, and I have a biology degree, and a lot of the requirements and prerequisites were within the nursing program, but I had to retake them because they expired.
Okay.
And so I had to retake them to get into nursing school. So when I went to do the BSN, I kind of went reluctantly to the meeting, and I said, if they tell me I have to take classes again, I'm not doing it. So that was the first thing that they said. I went to Brand New University. It was online. City of Hope had a partnership with them at the time. And that was the first thing they said, you don't have to retake, your prerequisites. So, I mean, automatically that really piqued my interest. There was that, and then also the cost, definitely tuition reimbursement. That played a big role in it because I had already paid off my student loans from nursing school, and I didn't want to, reopen up loans. I liked having my little extra money. And so those were definitely the main concerns that I had with going back to school. But, everything really fell in line when I went to Brandman, and, online they do offer a lot of flexibility, but the technology, sometimes it can be a little bit frustrating. That was one of the little barriers that I kind of noticed. And it's a little bit confusing, I think, sometimes online. But, if you can just get through that, I think the actual work, it's nowhere near as difficult as through your ADN. I think the BSN, I think that was one of the things that kind of shocked me most is that it's not quite as, I guess, mentally rigorous.
Mhm.
You know, you still have your papers and things like that, but you know, you're not learning new skills
Right.
basically. So that was one of the things I did. I was kind of surprised by that.
That's great. You hit on a component that concerns a lot of people wanting to go back, and that's that classes they took previously are not credited to them. I believe there's a 5-year
Mhm.
time frame you have if you took certain sciences
Right.
that they expire. And some people feel like they're on this cycle because they took some of their sciences at this point, and it's been 5 years and now they're
Mhm.
taking classes over
Right.
again. So it's being aware of that. I think a lot of people aren't aware of that these sciences can expire
Mhm.
if you don't have the degree attached to them. You have to
Right.
have like a degree attached in order for it to be effective into transitioning into another
Mhm.
degree program. How much?
I found that I had to take sociology, statistics, and an English writing class, even though I had those in my ADN program.
Okay.
But those were the barriers that I ran into as far as extra classes go. I didn't expect that. But I chose to do an online program, so I had the flexibility to continue to work full-time. And I chose Walden University. I had a couple of buddies that were also in school, a few courses ahead of me. So it was really nice to be able to share books, and the cost of the books was pretty surprising. So, although now I understand you can do a lot of that online and download the book online. So, the other thing, working full time, having a family, and trying to juggle school was not easy. And most of my after work hours were done, preparing papers for each week. There were multitudes of papers and discussions and theory, and it's all part of the learning process. That was probably the biggest adjustment was for my husband, I think, because I wasn't there cooking dinner every night. And my daughters, who were in college at the time, were extremely helpful with the technology part of it. And both of them were journalism majors, so they were very nice proofreaders for my papers. So the kids can help as well. So,
That's great.
yeah.
I have heard some people mention that when they start a program, the requirements are a certain number of requirements. By the time they get ready to graduate, some additional requirements have been added. Did any of you have that situation?
I did not have that situation. But another reason I chose the online program I chose was the ability to take one course at a time. Some of the people I had around me were trying to double up on courses, and I just saw them just, killing themselves trying to get through. I also liked the fact that my classes were 6 weeks and then there was a break. So that was really nice as well. And I probably looked through 12 different programs pretty closely before I made my choice. Yeah.
That's great. How about you, Renee?
Like Amber, I've been out of school a lot longer, and my main thing was I didn't want to take my prerequisites either. There was no way I was doing anatomy, physiology, chemistry all over again. And so I had a coworker and a friend who went back to University of Phoenix, and she had done their bachelor's program, so I talked to her about it. At that time, we were also, City of Hope was partnering with another facility or another school. But I had chosen University of Phoenix after I made an appointment and spoke with the mentor on grounds. And I liked their program because you could either do it online or on campus. I did it on campus because I wanted to be able to visually see the teacher, to see my coworkers that came with me, and to see, who you're going to be partnering up with, group work. And it also makes you more accountable, because I can do a lot online, but if the whole thing was online, discipline is really, really a major factor, because, you can't do things last minute.
Right.
And one of the things that the school offered was they had free workshops at all their campuses that you can take. Either you can register them online or you can go directly there, and they were all on workshops on PowerPoint, on the computer, technology, writing, APA. They had tutors that were facilitators twice a week at all the campuses that supported you in math and in writing. So the support behind the scenes was my major thing, because
Yeah.
I mean, I was like what I call baby technology at the time.
Yeah.
And everything, even though you went to class, everything, all your homework, your papers, your research, the library were very different, because I wasn't used to that degree of technology. And so being able to I took like 7 classes before I started workshops.
Wow.
And they were only like, 5-6 hours.
Yeah.
So that was really nice. So when I went in, I didn't feel like completely, it was still a huge learning process, but I felt like I was a little bit more prepared. And their mentorship program for nursing there was excellent. So the support was good, and that's why I chose this. So you have to look at not only costs, all of them cost kind of around the same. I mean, there's not that much huge difference, but I wanted to look at who had the most support. Would I be able to like do it and not feel like too uncomfortable?
Right.
And so it was really good. And it was 4 hours a week, once a week. And it was still like about 20 hours invested a week in reading, research, writing, doing independent work, doing group work. So it is like a part-time job. And I worked full-time, but I only have me, myself, and I. So and that degree wasn't as hard because I don't have a family.
Yeah.
But your socialization kind of, goes away. But that's okay. It's 17 months. It goes really fast. So I looked at, you look at cost, proximity of the program,
Okay.
the campuses were closed, what their, if they have prereqs. I only needed 2. They took all my credits, and I needed like a statistics and then a philosophy, which I was able to test out of. They told you ahead, this is, for nurses who went in, this is what you need to take. And somewhere in that program, you have to take it. You can't graduate without. So they didn't tell you last minute, oh, by the way, this is what you need. They told you in the beginning, you have the whole program or the whole length of the program to do it. You can graduate, but you won't get your license until whatever prereqs that you needed were taken. So it was nice. So nurses were able to plan ahead of time and take those classes in between the program.
Great. Sounds like all of you did a lot of research
Yeah.
before you made a decision. You weighed the
Yes.
pros and cons. That's great. Jose, for you, you're considering a nursing program.
Right.
What are the things that you're looking at in a program?
I've been exploring on the Board of Registered Nursing website. They display each class's pass rates of the NCLEX. So that's something to consider. Another thing that I found that I like in my education is a good student faculty member ratio. So I just completed all my prerequisites like physio, microbiology, and I just don't want to talk about that, but I found that when those classes started, the class was 75 to 50 students. So it was a little hard to get a one-on-one, even during office hours. Those were some crowded hallways. But as the semester progressed and the class got harder, the class also got smaller. So that's when I found out, I like this smaller setting class. So that's also another factor that I consider when I'm shopping for schools. You look at the faculty to student ratio. I like to look at what theory they teach off of. Mount St. Mary's, they teach off the Roy adaptation theory. And I found that out not on their website, but by attending orientation sessions. So if you're shopping for schools, I recommend attending orientation sessions because you can ask their coordinator or even their faculty member right then and there questions that you may have, like I did with Mount St. Mary's. And location too, I mean, back to Mount St. Mary's, it's a beautiful school, beautiful location. And I like to look at the faculty list as well. So if there's someone who's teaching a palliative care class and they've published several papers, then I would love to be their student and have them take me under their wing and just learn about them because they're so specialized in that specific class. So those are just a few of the factors that I've been researching for nursing schools.
Great. Leilani, Theresa, you want to weigh in anything about what recruiters are looking for when it comes to BSN programs? Anything that you guys have to weigh in?
Well, I would like to say that as one of the nurse recruiters here at City of Hope, I am looking at bachelor's prepared nurses. I do have a BSN as well, and I had a different approach, a different pathway because I was doing my prerequisites at San Francisco State, and the nursing program was impacted. So I had to go to Fresno State for a semester because I needed to complete some of the extra classes, and then I applied to all all the ADN schools and all the BSN schools. And because I was on a wait list on all of them, the only school that accepted me was the University of San Francisco, so I went there. But when I do review resumes, not only do I look at degrees, but I also look at where they did their clinicals, because we want to see what kind of acute care settings they were placed in, because City of Hope, it's not an easy place to work at. I mean, our patients are really, really sick, and we want to make sure that we set up our new grads or experienced nurses up for success. And then also if they did any involvement, maybe they're part of Sigma Theta Tau, or maybe like a fraternity or sorority, preferably like nursing, because you can just go to school, but we also want to know how you're engaged and how you're involved in the community, as well as in your class.
And the groups that they belong to, their credentials, some of them even come out with the BSN, but they've gone the extra mile to get the ACLS, PALS, they'll go and get their CNOR, which is operating room. They'll go in and they'll get, like I said, the Sigma Theta Tau. We like to have that because it's a higher level of the honor systems that they're in. So that means they're really a little bit higher in their in the honor system and their education, the levels of the GPAs, things like that. So if you're looking at that, but we have some really good schools. I also like to look at the diversity piece. Some of the schools that they come in with the diversity goals, so that they're also educated in that respect too.
Great. Thank you guys very much. We're going to have Leilani talk more about what is the future of the nursing profession. So this one will take it over to Leilani and have her. it's all yours.
I just wanted to talk about the Institute of Medicine. It's the IOM that we talk about here in nursing. The IOM serves as an advisor to the nation to improve health, and highly recommend you read, their reports online. Just like what Renee said, with more than 3 million members, the nursing profession is the largest segment of the nation's healthcare workforce. And, the nurses, they're working on the front lines of patient care. They're giving direct effect on patient care. They stay regularly and close proximity to the patients and the scientific understanding of the care processes across the continuum of care, give them the unique ability to affect wide-reaching changes in healthcare systems. And the nurses need to be prepared to meet the diverse patients' needs and function as leaders and advance science and benefits patients in the capacity of health professionals to deliver safe, quality, patient-centered care. So one of the pillars in advancing the nursing profession is to ensure that the nurses today are prepared for the 21st century. So in 2008, the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation approached the Institute of Medicine, which is the IOM for short, to propose a partnership between two organizations. So the resulting collaboration became the 2-year Robert Wood Johnson Foundation Initiative on the Future of Nursing at the IOM. The committee was chaired by a former U.S. Secretary of Health and Human Services, Donna Shalala, and the goal was to really look at the possibility of transforming the nursing profession to meet the challenges of changing healthcare landscape. So the report produced by the committee, which is called The Future of Nursing, Leading Change, Advancing Health, makes specific and directed recommendations in the areas of nurse training, education, professional leadership, and workforce policy. And their website provides a lot of access to ongoing research and data supported by the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation through its initiative on the future of nursing to continue to advance the recommendation on the IOM report. And, what is this report really telling us? It's really about the future of healthcare in our country. And it also points out that nurses are going to have a very critical role in that future, especially producing safe, quality care and also coverage for all patients of all healthcare systems. And this was according to Donna Shalala, who's the PhD chair of committee on the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation Initiative on the Future of Nursing of the IOM. So it's informing us also that nursing is also integral to the safe and effective functioning of the healthcare delivery system as it undergoes radical transformation, as we've all seen here on the panel, with regard to access to care, quality of care, and cost of care. So now what we're looking at is there are a lot of recommendations from the IOM, and one of them is to increase the bachelor's prepared nurses in the healthcare, especially in the hospitals. So.
Great. Thank you, Leilani. One of the topics that we wanted to also talk about is when you take your boards, at what point in your education process are you taking your boards? There's some new programs that offer you the ability, if you have a bachelor's in one area, say if it's chemistry or biology, that you can go on and get a master's of science in nursing, passing up the BSN portion of that. Before you receive a degree, you're taking your boards. So in a situation like that, we always want to make nurses aware that if you do that, there's not a degree attached to your license. So if you were to transfer to another state, you would need to take your boards all over again. So whenever we go to job fairs, we always try to let nursing students especially know that this is a component of you taking your degree with one of these programs. And so we also wanted to hit on that here as we have that topic. That it is highly competitive. We typically, when I first started here, about 3 years ago, we were getting about 1,500 new grads were applying. So wanting to make sure that the components of your resume, your educational piece, where you do rotations, are very important in the new grad process if you're a new grad that's looking for a position within an acute care setting, and asking those hard questions of your university. When will I take my boards? Will my degree be attached to my license when I take my boards? And what are the other components that I would need to be aware of and before you enroll in a program? A lot of people are not asking those questions before they start in a program like that. So we just wanted to make sure that was something we discussed here. Do any of you have anything you wanted to add to that? That anyone that, it sounds like all of you have followed the path of getting your associate degree and then going on to get the BSN, but just open it up to the panel. Anyone else have any thoughts on that? Okay.
I'd like to ask Jose what are your decisions as you're moving along? What are you finding the pros and cons, if you don't mind answering that, for some people that may be going into this? I mean, you're just a perfect example here.
Sure. Well, I find that as a student, we have a lot of options. And I feel the most popular option right now is the traditional BSN, which is just, I mean, whether you're applying at a high school to your 2 years of prerequisites and then your 2 years of nursing classes, or a transfer student like myself. So when you're transferring, there are so many avenues that you could go down to end up to the BSN, which is one, the traditional, or you can start off with your associate degree in nursing. Like my fellow panelists did, you can work with that degree and then go back. Or I think it's new where you start off with the associate degree school and you transition into the 4-year institution and you finish off with your baccalaureate degree in nursing. So I want to be strategic when applying. So I'm applying to both traditional and the ADN programs.
Okay.
And I mean, I've never heard any complaints about nurses who started off with the ADN because they get that solid bedside experience. They're able to really establish their bedside manners. And then they finish off by elaborating on that information and enhancing it with theory and leadership, especially in nursing. I mean, I walk into the hospital and I see all the managers and it's a BSN attached to it. And, you know, one day it'd be great to see a male manager. One day. So it's, yeah.
That's cute. Thank you.
So one day, yeah, but there's so many options. And if students are watching right now, I say just don't put all your eggs in one basket, particularly in Southern California. It's very competitive.
It is.
And just network with counselors at the institutions just so you can get their 2 cents. And they'll tell you, don't apply to just our institution. We want you, but be strategic and apply to several of them.
Thank you. Thank you very much. The next component that we'll start off and we'll talk to Theresa about this. She'll elaborate on it, and we'll have each one of our panelists talk about when you do get your associate degree and then you go back to school to get your bachelor's degree, what are the things that you need to consider when doing that? And we'll get to all of you and ask you what you had to consider. What were the What did you lose? We always say if you say yes to one thing, you have to say no to something else. So if you can all share, what did you say no to while you were going to school? And we'll kind of start out with Theresa.
So I know I usually ask a lot of the nurses this question as well, and it is a challenge. You know, obviously, because of the children and trying to go back in, and then most of all, really trying to decide what school, like you said, trying to figure which school is going to take me to that level. And a lot of the nurses that I interview, a lot of them follow whatever the hospitals really, and like you went with somebody that supported City of Hope. They try to go with the hospitals that have that or local schedules. I mean, it really makes a difference, the school. I really recommend having the good clinical in addition to, because not only the leadership skills you're looking for, but understanding all of that, because it will come to all fruition when you're in the position. So.
Your take on that, Leilani? Anything about what you have to lose or what you have to say no to when you're going on to get a higher degree?
I think for me, I had to just lose my social, because I had a lot of friends, back in when I was doing my prereqs, and literally I had to really just hide, because the BSN program, it's already hard to even get into a BSN program. But another thing is, once you get in, it's to stay in and to continue to stay in, because it is a hard program, no matter where you go. And the classes that you have to take, the APA papers that you have to do, you pretty much kind of have to give up pretty much your life and just dedicate your time to just studying. But it was difficult for me too, because I had to work, and because I went to the University of San Francisco, there was only so much that grants could provide me and scholarships. So I had to take out loans, and I also had to work at the same time. So it was difficult. I didn't have a family, but still, I was working 3 jobs. I was working full time during the summer. So it was pretty tough, but it's worth it, because once you have your BSN, I always say it's like gold, because once you have your BSN, you can move up and you can enjoy.
We'll go to you, Jose. What are some of the components you think you'll have to give up as you're getting your degree?
So I'm hearing words like give up and sacrifice. I like to say invest.
Invest. Okay.
Yeah, so rather than investing my time in friends, I'll invest, and fun playtime, I'll invest in study time.
Right.
So just take a positive aspect to it.
Great. How about you, Renee? What did you invest in?
I would say, well, I already knew going in that it was going to be a pretty fast-paced program, because it's 17 months. They're very accelerated classes, so there were either 5 to 7 weeks. So I knew there was a lot of work. So the biggest component before you start is you have to be mentally prepared. If you don't have that, I've had friends that have gone in, dropped out. I didn't want that. I thought, okay, this is what I'm going to do. You mentally prepare yourself for the next 17 months that you have to be disciplined. And so if you're mentally prepared to what you have to invest in, then you're okay. So for me, it was socialization too, because I love to go out. I love to travel. I have a lot of friends. And so if I wanted to do stuff, I would just plan it ahead. And all my friends, majority of them are nurses. My family is very, very supportive, so thank God for that. So in that respect, it wasn't hard, because everyone surrounded me knew already that I would have to be like in the library Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And I was extremely fortunate that my coworker and I, we went together, and our manager was very supportive, and we told her, like, class is this night, because we had class at school and we needed the night off before. So we were able to schedule our working schedule around class. So they were very accommodating there. So we still work full time, 3 days a week, or I should say nights, because we work night shift. And then we had class one day. So in that respect, it was really good. That was supportive. So I didn't have to worry about not being able to go to class. And then we had, at that time, they're no longer with us, but 2 assistant managers who were my mentors, who both had their bachelor's and master's, and they were helpful with me in preparing my PowerPoints and the research and the assignments. So I had a lot of support on my unit, which in my family, which makes a huge difference.
Great. Now, you talked about your husband. They weren't able to cook every night.
Well, I have to admit, I wasn't doing that before I went to school. So,
It was not times, right?
That
but
comes
like
out.
Renee, I mean, it helped to have a comrade at work that was going through school as well, even though we weren't in the same classes simultaneously. But giving up, what did I give up? I mean, you give up your time. I was working full time, and you get home from work and you hit the computer. I was on an all online program, so I had to really discipline myself to stay with it. I never felt like I wanted to drop out. I just was surprised at the time that it was taking.
Yeah.
And like you said before, 20 to 25 hours a week minimum. And you're writing papers, and you get to the point where you want to write a really good paper. So you want to put in the time for that. My writing skills were quite well honed in school. I have to admit, I was never a writer. I was always a science and math,
Okay.
biology, and medical focus. So that was a bonus. Giving up, I gave up reading all books and novels and magazines for probably 18 months. I just couldn't bring myself to read a book when my school book was sitting right there. So, but I did take my computer. I still went on vacation. Had to spend time, doing papers and whatnot, kind of holed up in the back bedroom while everybody was out at the beach a few times. But you know what? It pays off. Regarding student loans, I did take out loans. It's not inexpensive, and I also had two daughters in college at the same time, so we were doing parent loans and my own loans. So, but you know what? I had to kind of do the weigh the odds. Should I put this money into retirement, or should I put this money towards school and get a better job? And it ended up working out very well.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So,
Sounds
yeah,
like the-
it was a great path to management.
excellent. Good investment.
Good investment, like exactly.
I use that word.
Exactly.
I like
mean,
that word.
It's
Um,
true. No, it's true. I didn't
Renee-
feel like I was losing out on anything. It was
Okay.
just a lot. It was a big time investment.
Renee and I were talking just before the panel started, and we mentioned how, my older sister's a nurse, and I was telling her how she did it with 3 kids under her belt, but just at every family gathering, or like Bernie, she would go on vacations or just still participate. She would be there, but you would never see her face because there was always a book in it.
I'm not in any of the photos.
No.
Vacations.
You could see her off in the side, just kind of looking at her books. So I commend nurses who go back to school when they have families. So that's why I think, I don't have a family. I'm only 22. I can do it.
Yeah.
So it's very inspirational to just hear that from experienced nurses.
That's great. How about you, Amber? What were your investments?
The big thing was time.
Time.
My boyfriend, he's now my husband, but it was really, I think it was a little bit of a transition for him because, we both work 12-hour shifts. And so, our off days, we do whatever we want. And so having to, kind of like downshift to, I have to do papers all day. It was kind of tough. And then when we would go, places, he could always tell that my mind was still somewhere else.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of like, okay, we can do this for 3 hours and then I have to get back and I have to do this. Everything was kind of timed out, and he really noticed that. But yeah, it was definitely the time. And he also has a daughter. And so it was kind of tough because I'd be at the table doing homework on my laptop, and then she'd pull up her little laptop. And I'd be
that's
like,
so
oh,
cute.
I want to play with her.
She figured out a way.
Yeah. So I think the time that you have to put into it, it really does take away from, whatever your old role used to be. Like, even my husband, he would come over and he would do some of my laundry for me. Because, you don't have the time that you used to just to do basic things. So that's definitely something to consider.
Great. We can capitalize a little bit on what the benefits that for you, it was a new position moving into the manager position from the BSN. What are some of the other advantages that all of you feel that you obtained from getting the BSN?
For me, I think I'm still a bedside nurse, and I don't really have any immediate plans for management, but I like the freedom of flexibility, whether it be, in a couple of years,
Right.
I'm I'm pregnant now, so I may not, want to be on my feet, doing the 12-hour shifts, but I like the flexibility and not having to worry, oh, am I going to be held back by my ADN,
Right.
in a few years? Just, kind of capitalizing on, there's a good program. You're technically not married yet. You don't have any kids, just do it so that way down the line, you're not bound by the ADN. Because I actually I was talking to you before, I was talking to Bernie. I encountered a lot of registry nurses who were saying that they were really, confined by their ADN. They could only work in a nursing home, or, even trying to get in at City of Hope, they couldn't, get a position. And so after hearing, stories like that, I really was thinking, okay, I should just go ahead and do it. It won't hurt. Most of the programs are only, I think, like maybe 12 to maybe 15 months.
Okay.
So it's definitely doable. So I kind of just felt like, I had that job security that I could move if I needed to.
It opened up opportunities to you. Anyone else have anything about the benefits?
For me, it was technology, and it came at the right time because we went live with our electronic medical records. So being able to understand behind the scenes how technology works, computers, networks, research, understand what evidence-based practice really is, how to research articles, how to apply what you're doing, and being able to look at protocols. Because a lot of times, in hospitals, there's so many, especially on our unit, there's so many protocols that are there, and we might not always get educated. You're able to go online, and I either use the library at City of Hope or my school, and you're able to do research and understand components and whether or not a research is biased. All those things that help you expand your clinical practice and being able to utilize critical thinking, and then be able to teach all the new people all the new residents who really, really need that component. But I loved learning how the computer worked, because when our electronic medical records came in, I became a super user, and I understood how it works and why, and it made that process so much easier, knowing what's happening. Oh, where are those rates going? How does it go to that machine? How do I troubleshoot? And then I could figure out my own TV at home too. Because that's a whole other thing, trying to figure out your internet and your TV at home. So it's exciting because it gives you those tools where you're able to apply in your personal and professional life and in growth. So
Excellent. So you could use it on a day-to-day basis.
Yes.
Excellent. Got to turn your TV on. How about you, Jose?
So I don't have the BSN quite yet, but I always go off of what my boss, Betty Farrell, says, where she says nurses cannot practice what they do not know. So I wanted to come prepared to this panel, and I did some research on AACN's website, because they're like the mother of CCNE, which accredits BSN institutions. And I'm not going to throw out all these stats, but having a BSN really helps the hospital out, not just the hospital, but your patient population. But I think I have a perfect quote from Florence Nightingale to sum this up. And I saw this quote at a nursing conference I went to, and the quote goes, "Nursing is a progressive art in which to stand still is to go back. A woman or man who thinks of themselves, I am a full nurse, a skilled nurse. I have learnt all there is to be learnt. Take my word for it. They do not know what a nurse is and will never know. They have already gone back."
Thank you for sharing that, Jose.
Yeah, that's very nice.
Any other comments, Leilani or Theresa?
I just, once you get your BSN, you'll be able to do a lot of things. I know nurses, go get their JD, so they could be a nurse consultant. Some get their MBA because they want to get more of the business aspects. Some get their MSN, and so they could become a nurse practitioner. They could be a clinical nurse specialist. So there's so many opportunities once you get your BSN.
Great, thank you. I wanted to wrap up with Leilani talking about advancing your nursing career and what's next after you get your BSN.
I think just celebrate after you get your BSN. Just celebrate, and then think of where you want to take your career to the next level. Either go into the business aspect, or be a nurse practitioner, or maybe like own your own business, or there's so many things. There's also, because what the big need right now is, we need a lot of nursing informatics. So there are master's programs that do offer nursing informatics, and we also need nurse practitioners. So there's a wealth of other advanced degrees that you can go towards. And then if you want to even be more bold, you could also go for your DNP, which is more like the doctorate prepared. Either a DNP, a PhD. I mean, there's so many opportunities after you get your master's.
Great. Does anyone else have any closing comments that they'd like to make?
Well, just to elaborate a little bit on what Leilani said, it kind of coincides with the research I found on AACN's website, where they said that continuing after your BSN onto whether it's master's level or doctoral level, it's with the BSN, it's the platform to make that jump into the graduate degree level. And as I mentioned, I went to a nursing conference, and at that same conference, they mentioned that I think it's the Future of Nursing ILM report, where one of the goals was to double the amount of doctorally prepared nurses by 2020. And they had mentioned how there's a shortage of faculty. And as a student, that really caught my ear, just because it's already difficult enough to get into a nursing program.
Right.
So if there's less faculty to teach, their cohorts are only going to get smaller and smaller. So I think, I mean, even as a student, I think continuing your education after your BSN is a great thing. And it's great to hear other nurses say, I want to continue. You know, you have students like me, like you see that, and then you think, I can do it too.
Gives you that hope. Great.
Exactly.
Well, we want to thank all of you for joining us, and we will be doing the tweet chat the fourth Tuesday of every month at 3:00 Pacific Standard Time. And if you missed the original session, the recordings are available on YouTube. You can check on there. And also, we'd like you to check out our jobs here at City of Hope. We're at it's all lowercase letters, all one word, cityofhope.org. And again, thank you for joining us today.